Welcome to the Healthy AF podcast. This episode is all about habits for a better night's sleep. I'm your host, Zane Griggs, sharing with you what I have learned in 25 years as a fitness professional about nutrition, exercise, sleep, and many more lifestyle strategies to help you become healthy AF. Healthy after 50. Now, few things can affect the energy you have to take on your day than the quality of your sleep. The low quality sleep can actually have a negative impact on your metabolic and stress hormones as well. Hormones like insulin and cortisol and ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. What that means that beyond energy, it can impact your body's ability to burn fat, your appetite and cravings, and your ability to deal with stressful situations. And if you're underslept, you're probably more likely to reach for something you wouldn't normally eat that, isn't on your plan. And that can have quite an impact on your fitness goals, or if you're trying to just lose some weight, or if your adrenals like cortisol are elevated, that can affect your patience. You're maybe more likely to lose your temper or snap at someone in a conversation for no other reason than you just didn't get a very good night's sleep. So it's really important to create the ideal sleep environment, which starts with your body. Okay, we'll get to your room, but we got to start with your body and the environment it's in and the state it's in prior to going to bed to make sure that you're ready to get to sleep and stay asleep. Now, when it comes to dinner or any heavy meal, you want to make sure you finish that meal at least 3 hours before bed, just to give your body time to digest it. A heavier meal can actually elevate your metabolic rate, your body temperature, and that extra energy and heat is going to disrupt your sleep. So give yourself a few hours after eating dinner before you go to bed. Also, limit alcohol to 3 hours before bed. That can really have an impact on your sleep. Now, ideally, no alcohol is best. If you're going to have some, you could probably get away with 1 drink 3 hours before bed, maybe 2 if you're a bigger guy, but most people, 2 drinks, you're probably going to notice it throughout your sleep, throughout the night. So what happens with alcohol, because it's a depressant, is it actually causes your body to keep you from being laid out on the floor because you just drank a depressant. It stimulates your adrenals. And then in the course of processing that alcohol, your adrenals are still pushing up against it. But once you process that alcohol somewhere in the middle of the night, your adrenals may not get the notice too quickly. They might still be pumping like they were a few hours before. And so the alcohol wears off enough that your adrenals wake you up in the middle of the night. Have you ever experienced that? Where you just wake up and you're staring at the ceiling, wondering, what is going on? Why am I wide awake like I've just had 8 hours of sleep, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the things you didn't do yesterday and you've got to do tomorrow? It could very well be that drink you had before you went to bed. So once again, your best bet is just to avoid it or limit it to 1 drink 3 hours before going to bed. Give your body a chance to process it. If you're younger, in your 20s or 30s, you may not be noticing that wake up effect. I noticed with my clients as well as with myself, once I got past 40 or they got past 40, I started hearing that kind of feedback to having just 1 or 2 glasses of wine, which didn't bother them in their 20s or 30s. But now their body just doesn't respond as quickly to shut off those stress hormones. So you may be experiencing it in your 20s and 30s. It's coming. If you haven't yet, it's coming. Just about everyone I know over 40, they have a couple drinks shortly before bed. It affects their sleep. Also, blue light exposure. This is for everybody. Blue light exposure, limit that 3 hours before bed. Now, we're all in front of screens, phones. The TV usually is far enough away, it doesn't have such an impact. You're more likely to fall asleep in front of the TV, aren't you? But the screen that's within arm's length. So the iPads, the phones, that really has an impact on our circadian rhythm. It's really going through the eye and the optic nerve, telling our brain that the sun is still up because we're getting more blue light in. Usually after dark, we would have traditionally been exposed to candlelight, which is much more infrared light, right? So we want to start blocking out the ultraviolet light. Now, we've probably seen apps on screens, even your phone. You get an app or a filter that blocks out blue light. So you have more of that sepia tone on your screen. Or maybe you could get some blue light blocking glasses. That's what I do. Besides, I have the app on my laptop. But the blue light blockers I wear all throughout the house because the light in our homes also has a lot of blue light. So I immediately start blocking light. Once I put those glasses on, I'm blocking the blue light coming in. And I usually grab those 3, maybe 4 hours before bedtime and just keep them on all the time until I go to bed. So I like to do, for me, deep sleep is essential and I'm around a lot of blue light. So for me, I do all of it, right? I got the apps on the screens. I've got the blue light blocking glasses on. I really can't emphasize this enough. Most of us don't get enough sunlight during the day. And that is also important. If you can get up and get outside in the morning, get some natural sunlight, or go for a walk in the evening and get that evening light hitting your eyes, telling your brain, hey, it's time to start, winding down, going to sleep. But getting that sunlight during the day and then blocking the blue light in the evening is really crucial to getting your circadian rhythm in balance so that your brain really knows, hey, it's daylight, we have energy, cortisol's up, we're going after it. Nighttime, less blue light, there's more infrared light available for whatever we need to do. By blocking out the blue, actually have more infrared coming in terms of proportionate, right? More infrared than blue light coming in. Telling your brain, hey, it's time to rest, relax, recover. And you might find you get to sleep sooner when you go to bed and you stay asleep longer just by adding some blue light blocking glasses and putting a little app on your screens. Not a big deal to get a good night's sleep. Also, before bed, avoid work-related activities or work-related conversations, phone calls, right? Working on anything work-related that's going to stimulate your brain, get you thinking that way. If you have trouble sleeping and shutting off your brain, thinking about work, talking about work, doing those work-related activities right before bed, not ideal. You're keeping your brain running. You really need to land the plane, so to speak. You need to get your brain to settle down, come out of 30,000 feet, right? Come down, land the plane, calm down, settle everything down, settle your body down, get your brain thinking. You can still be active. You still be doing something. Say active with your brain. You can still read. You can still listen to things that interest you, and they can be productive, or they could be things that help you, if you will, learn or stimulate your brain in a positive way. It doesn't have to be garbage on TV. Don't get me wrong. It could be puzzles. It could be a card game, something that still is stimulating to you or interesting to you, but it's not work related. And so it lets your brain really calm down, get away from the stress of work, and get ready for a night of rest. Something that helps me, my whole body calm down, is spending some time stretching and nasal breathing. So, do some stretches, some mobility movements, nothing that's going to get my heart rate up high, but something that's going to actually, obviously, want to calm down. The nasal breathing also adds to that. So not breathing through my mouth, breathing primarily or strictly through my nose, which adds to vasodilation, or your blood vessels dilating. It brings down your blood pressure. It'll bring down your heart rate, and really is telling your parasympathetic nervous system to kick into gear, which means it's time to rest and relax. We have our sympathetic nervous system is what wakes us up in the morning with cortisol and gets us going to go out and start, kicking tail and closing deals, right? That's our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, if you will. But really, it's the action, it's the activity. Then we have a parasympathetic, which is, it's a combination of hormones and, like I said, the vasodilation, blood pressure coming down, which tells our body, hey, it's time to relax, recover, get ready, and prepare for the next day. And so the nasal breathing and stretching I found has really helped me get more deep sleep. And I fall asleep very quickly. Once I do go to bed, I'm asleep in minutes. So something that you may want to think about, just stretching, nasal breathing. It's good for your health anyway, but if it helped your sleep, really, I can't recommend it enough. It has made a difference in my sleep quality tremendously. Now, let's get to the bedroom. We want your bedroom to be your ideal sleep environment. Think of it as your sleep cave. So we want it cool and dark. So thick window covering, so there's no light coming in the windows. The ideal temperature would be 63 to 67 degrees, give or take. If you like a little cooler, you can certainly go a little lower. But you want your body temp to be able to come down. And so that sleep environment with a cool and dark place really sets your body up for deeper sleep. So no lights, or as few as possible, no devices with notifications buzzing. If you got something with a light and it's not your alarm clock that you need to see if you wake up to look at, I understand you may want a clock somewhere that you see. If that's needed, of course, have that visible so you can get to work on time. But anything else, cover it, like throw a shirt over it. And personally, I like to keep like an old black or dark t-shirt near my pillow. So if there is some sort of light or something's creeping in behind the shade, in those summers where the sun's coming up early, I can just throw that t-shirt over my eyes and really add to the darkness, right? The dark effect. But avoid the lights, avoid buzzing, avoid any kind of devices that might alert you to something going on, because you really just need to be as unstimulated as possible. You might want to try having some white noise or some sort of sound machine going in the background just to block out those random noises that, creaky houses or somebody walking down the hall if you have other people in your house, or a dog barking, things like that. Get rid of those environmental noises by just creating a sort of a distracting noise within your own bedroom. And I've personally found the white noise is very helpful for that. And it's really helped me not be so distracted or disturbed by ancillary noises. Of course, avoid watching TV in bed, because that's just a stimulant, even though it's not. You might say, well, I fall asleep when I'm watching it. I understand that, but still light coming into your eyes. And it's the idea that your bed is for sleep. And so if you're going to watch TV, maybe try to the room, really sit in a different place than your bed. But all the experts point to avoid watching TV in bed, so that bed is really a time for sleep, not where your mind is being stimulated or you're trying to stay up. You're telling yourself to stay up to watch a show because you want to see the end of it. Just avoid that TV in bed. Nasal breathing while sleeping is really, again, ideal for getting quality deep sleep, just as it is for preparing your body to sleep and the vasodilation, lowering blood pressure, telling your body to calm down, get ready to rest. It's ideal for while you're sleeping as well, to get a deeper sleep that really helps you recover. Now, if you're on social media much, you've probably seen this mouth tape being advertised or maybe posted about by some health influencer. Now, that may seem like a little bit of a kink thing for you. It looks kind of funny, but it's actually very helpful for developing the habit of nasal breathing, because too often, maybe when we were younger, we naturally breathe through our nose, but as we get older, we tend to lose those good habits, especially if we're not paying attention to them. The mouth drops open. We wake up with cotton mouth, a sore throat. We may not even be conscious of it, but redeveloping that habit of breathing strictly through our nose while we're sleeping is really is ideal. It's worth doing something. Maybe it's a little strange to you at first, just to keep the mouth closed out. Of course, you wake up and it's something disturbing you. They're very easy to pull off without any pain. So you're not going to be giving yourself a lip wax every time you wake up in the morning. But they do hold just enough to keep your mouth closed and to further facilitate the nasal breathing, which again, the health benefits, even to avoiding Some people say cavities, developing cavities because of the mouth breathing, the bacteria that comes through the mouth. And the nose really is the ideal filter. It warms it, it filters the air before it gets into our lungs. So we avoid getting some bacteria, cold, dry air down in our throat and our lungs, which could make us more susceptible to allergies and sickness. So you really can't argue with the importance of using your nose to breathe as often as possible throughout your day, but especially while we sleep. Now, I understand some people doing all of these things, they still may struggle to get a really good deep sleep or get enough sleep or to stay asleep throughout the night. I'm one of those people. This is one of my biggest battles personally, to get enough deep sleep each night. I can get it maybe a few nights a week, but there's other times when the deep sleep escapes me, no matter what I do. So there are some supplements that can help with sleep, generally taken shortly before going to bed. One of them I know helps me quite a bit. It's called tryptophan. You've probably heard of it. Talk about, eating turkey. People have, take that big nap after Thanksgiving because of the tryptophan in the turkey. Well, there's actually not that much tryptophan in turkey compared to beef or any other meat. And it's probably all the carbs and starches and desserts and stuff that actually make people take that nap. But tryptophan can be helpful for sleep because it's an amino acid that's a precursor for our bodies to make melatonin. And melatonin, as you probably heard, it's helpful for a lot of things in the body, but it does help with getting you into a better place for REM sleep, is what I found. But tryptophan, again, is a precursor. So it's not like putting melatonin right like under your tongue if you take it sublingually or taking the melatonin tablet. It makes your body have to process it into the melatonin. So you're just giving yourself kind of the building blocks to create more melatonin endogenous. Now, my dose for tryptophan, so I get the 500 milligram tablets. And the way I figured out my dose is I took one 500 milligram one night, saw how that worked, took a second one the next night, then took a third for the next night. And you basically take them until it helps your sleep. But if your dreams start getting too vivid, so vivid that it wakes you up or you start having nightmares, then you know, okay, that's too much. So for me, 3 500 milligram capsules of tryptophan was too much. The dreams were crazy. They were just like waking me up in the middle of the night, like disturbing. And they weren't always nightmares. They're just super vivid. And most people, you may want to try that just for your own experimentation. That's on you. It's not going to hurt you, but it's not great for getting a good deep night's sleep because it literally woke me up like I wanted to wake up just to get out of the crazy dream. So that's not ideal. So for me, the 2 500 milligram capsules was plenty. For some people, it might be 1. Some people might be able to handle 3. So just trial and error, see what you need. But it definitely makes an impact because I noticed the dreaming. If I took too many, too bad, the dreams were too crazy. Just enough, I definitely feel an impact in more REM sleep. And then I also take magnesium glycinate. There's a lot of other compounds of magnesium out there that do different things. Magnesium citrate is more to kind of bring fluid into your bowels. If you go to the bathroom and things are all blocked up. Not great for sleep either. Magnesium threonate is great for brain health. And if you need that might be helpful to you for sleep. But and magnesium oxide is almost junk. Like I just don't even mess with it. I'm sure I don't think we absorb much of it. But the magnesium glycinate compound is helpful in getting the muscles to relax. And so that's why I need to help my body kind of relax, calm down. 1 to 200 milligrams a night seems to be helpful for me. Kind of play with that. Most people don't get enough magnesium anyway in their diet. So it never hurts to supplement with some magnesium. Now, if you eat a very low carb or no carb diet, then yes, magnesium definitely going to be helpful for you because we just don't get it that much from meat sources or certain vegetables or fruits that might have some in there. If you eat plenty of dairy, then you might be getting more magnesium than your average low carb person. But we also tend to, because of eating low carb, We don't carry a lot of extra fluids, so we tend to lose some electrolytes easily, and magnesium being one. So that's one reason we might be a little bit lower in magnesium just from following a low carb diet. So again, magnesium can't hurt. But the other issue with a low carb or no carb diet, like if you're carnivore, animal based with very little fruit, keto, that low blood sugar that can, I mean, yes, it can help you with steady energy and good sleep. But if it gets too low, for some people, the stress of that no carb diet can trigger a cortisol release. So if we get hypoglycemic, so our blood sugar drops too low, then our liver wants to put out more blood sugar, because that's the job of the liver, is to regulate our blood sugar, make sure it stays in proper ranges. And if it gets too low, it's going to spit out more glucose into our bloodstream. Well, in order to do that, it usually has to go through a process. It may have some in the liver already. If it's low, the liver's low, and it needs a lot of it, it can create that glucose before releasing it by breaking down proteins. Now, in that process, what can happen in the release of this glucose and in the creation of it is that we release the adrenal cortisol, the stress hormone cortisol. Well, like the alcohol, if you're releasing cortisol in the middle of the night to create more blood sugar, that could wake you up. You may wake up with heart palpitations, may wake up wide awake. Like, what is going on? What probably could have happened. I'll say what could have happened because it's very individual. Some people are fine the low carb or keto diet. Some people, it's just too much of a stressor. And so their body has to make more glucose in the middle of the night, which causes cortisol to be released, which wakes them up for a time in the middle of the night. And they're not sure why. That could be it. So what I have found that there is, and just in conversing with other people in the nutrition field, there's a powder called myo-inositol, which helps with carbohydrate metabolism. And that can be helpful for some people with this issue. Now, if you don't have this issue, the myo-inositol may be not much use to you. But I just do there's a little scooper in there. It's like 2 grams. I just put a little bit of that. It's very fine. It's got a sweeter taste to it. And it has a texture of like powdered sugar. It's very fine powder. I just put a little under my tongue, let it dissolve and absorb it through the veins under the tongue. And it can help with keeping that blood sugar more steady, having those super low hypoglycemia, which leads to that cortisol release. I can tell you, this is one of those things, it's not across the board for everybody. But if you're still struggling after taking tryptophan and magnesium, and you're eating this very low carb, ketogenic, no carb diet, give that a shot. Okay. And see if it works for you. Because we're not all the same. Some people won't have that issue at all. Some people, this may help with that issue. But, I've found that consistently taking it, more often than not, I'm getting better sleep. So now, if sleep is a real issue for you, like it is for me, as I said, you may want to consider a sleep tracking device just to see, if your habit changes are helping, and just get an assessment of where your sleep is, like how much deep sleep you're getting, how much REM sleep you're getting, how much movement you have going on. So, 2 devices that I recommend are the Oura Ring and the Whoop strap. So you can just take a look at both of them, do your research, decide which one's best for you. I'll put links to both of those in the show notes, but they'll help you track, like I said, your deep sleep, your REM sleep, your heart rate, your HRV, which is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the variation between each heartbeat. So, like I said, when you're in that or your sympathetic state during the day and you're kind of go, let's get things done, cortisol may woke you up, and then you get going and you're just, you're on about your day. Your heart rate is very steady. But in other words, the time between each beat is very rhythmic. It might be exactly 1.1 seconds between each beat, where you are, or it might be exactly 0.75 seconds between each beat more often, or very close to that. Heart rate variability at night when you're sleeping ideally has very random time periods between each beat. Like one, it might be 0.89, and then it might be 0.95, then 1.05 seconds between each beat. You see what I'm saying? The variability is important. So the more variability you have between beats, it is understood that that is indicative of a more relaxed state rather than a steady one where it's like this hits the beat every time, same place. A little simple, oversimple, but that's just to get the idea. Heart rate variability, people talk about it, but not everyone understands what it really is. And so it's just the rhythm of your heart and the gaps between each beat. It's that simple. Body temperature. So these devices can track your body temp, your oxygenation level, and even your movement. If you're real restless at night, if you have a lot of movement, or if you've been, just steady, quiet, calm, not moving all night, it'll show you that too. You can also use these devices to track your activity throughout the day. So they will track your calories, your movement. They even have some choices for saying, what your activity was, whether it was weight training, playing tennis, going for a jog. So you can use them to track activity as well. But I mean, for sleep, those are the two devices I would definitely recommend and look into. They have the best feedback. I think they're the most consistent in their tracking. But it's a great way to get feedback for your habit changes. So if you start making these changes, you can see, well, what affected my sleep? So did the blue light blocking glasses and taking the time to stretch and breathe and moving my dinners a little earlier, did that have an impact? And then what happens when I eat late? Does that throw it off? Have alcohol? Did that throw it off? Was I traveling? And then maybe my sleep was more disturbed. And so then you can say, okay, well, there's a reason why my sleep was disturbed. And it was this, which was out of track with my normal routine. So that kind of feedback can be helpful for you to say, okay, what is really impacting my sleep and what can I drill down on to make sure I'm consistently getting sleep? Stress before bed, whether it's work related, it's personal, maybe you're watching something you should be watching, like if true crime or news disrupts you, gets you upset, gets you angry, probably not a good idea to watch before you go to bed. Again, you don't want to watch trash TV. I get it. For some people, that's helpful. Takes their mind off of their day. Maybe something adventurous that helps trigger that inner superhero to make feel like, okay, you know what? I can do this. I can take stuff off. I can make a difference, even if it's fantasy. Again, puzzles, playing cards, reading a book that's of interest to you. Again, not work related. All great things, but nothing that causes stress, causes you to get worked up, to be upset, to be angry. Not a good place to be before you go to bed. Another thing, my exercisers, and I'm guilty of this as well. I've noticed overtraining can disrupt your sleep. So if you're doing a lot of working out, hitting the weights hard, more intense training, or you've just been very on and consistent, and especially as we get older. I noticed this more as I got older. Not so much in my 30s, maybe not even much in my early 40s, but mid to late 40s, and now in my 50s. I have to be careful not to overtrain. It will affect my sleep, or I'll notice that if I'm really pushing something, if I'm really driving towards a goal, like maybe a 4 or 6 week program that's like, pushing through something, and this creates a little bit of stress, it's harder to recover from. It will affect my sleep. And so you have to weigh out, well, is this time period worth it to push through when I'm going to hit this goal, to knowing it's going to affect my sleep a little bit, and then I'll come back to a more normal, restful state. But if you're ongoing, this is how you just live at this kind of overtrained state, which many people do. A lot of weight training, maybe a lot of intense long runs. You really need to think about how to scale back or make sure your recovery is better, because you may be overdoing it for what your body can recover from. And that's what these apps with the Oura Ring and the Whoop strap will tell you, that you are overdoing it. Your recovery, it says watch your recovery. Maybe you want to take it easy. Recovery index will be low. Heart rate might be too high at night. Maybe your body temp is too high. Your heart rate variability will not be as variable, right? It'll be more of that boom, 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 steady, because you're overtraining. And so any kind of stressor, whether it's like your diet, low carb, how hard you're training, uh, your workload, all those things are stressors. We have to manage those. And so if we have maybe you're doing a lot of extra work, maybe you're working longer hours, maybe it's a stressful time personally, we have family issues going on, that might mean you need to scale back in some of your intense exercise activities, or maybe think about including a little more carbohydrate in your diet so it's not so much stress. Now, if you're geared towards weight loss, you really have some strong weight loss goals, then you like the low carb, the keto diet's working for you. Okay, you don't want to sacrifice that. But be careful of intense activities. So anything that causes you to be stressed before bed, you really just want to eliminate it. Focus on landing the plane, lowering the heart rate, control your breathing with nasal breathing, stretching, doing things that, again, you enjoy and they'll overstimulate you. Now, I've included several studies in the show notes, primarily showing the relationship between poor sleep and insulin resistance or inflammatory markers. So if you're into that, you want to look at the research behind this, definitely check those out. But there's some basic habits that we've gone over here that can really help you, that you can put in place right away. And they're not really, once you start doing them, they're not a big deal when you think in terms of the trade-off of getting a great night's sleep and how that affects how you take on your day and how your body responds hormonally. So take these, put them to work for you. And if you enjoy this episode, hey, and you haven't already, hit that little subscribe button. If you know someone else who's dealing with sleep issues, which you probably do, you probably hear somebody mention something about having a bad night's sleep on a weekly basis, please share this episode with them. I'd really appreciate it. I'm sure they would as well.